Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Quintessentially Whole. It is April Fool's Day, and I love the meme that's going viral right now. It's saying April Fool's Day has been canceled because reality is so ridiculous at the moment, even April Fool's Day can't keep up. So we should almost have had some kind of a joke intro for this. Oh, well, whatever. So with me tonight, as usual, I have Ann Callaghan. Hello, Ann, my love.
Hi, Dani. Evening, everybody. From a very wet, cold, and a bit miserable Ireland.
Yeah, and it's over here in Malta, it's windy, like windy as fuck. Like we got gale force winds again. You can't go outside, you almost blow down the street. And tonight we have one of my buddies, Phillip, who's an independent researcher. And you guys have seen little bits of Phillip appears here and there. When we have him on, it's always you never know where the conversation's going to quite go. Hi, Phillip. How you doing, hun?
Good to be here.
And you're over in Australia. It's like some god-awful time in the morning where you are.
It's not too bad. 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. in the morning. It's not too bad.
So not too bad.
Been up since 4, so.
You've been up. You're caffeinated. You're fine. You're cruising.
Yeah.
So tonight we're going to touch on a few different subjects. We're going to talk about health, and I think we're going to get in a little bit more talking about like homeostasis and things like that. But we're going to talk about nutrition from a different angle. We're going to talk a little bit more about things like the minerals that are so vital right now and so lacking in our diets. But I want to start off with hydration. Or what is the quintessential problem at the moment is dehydration. And Phillip, you and I have had a couple of conversations on this, but I really want to dig into this because hydration is so vital for our health. And when you're drinking water and you're still not feeling hydrated, something's going on. So let's kick into that one right off the hop.
Okay, your minerals are out of balance when you're not hydrated. You can tell by looking at your urine by the color. If it's a strong color, you're losing minerals which you need to stay hydrated. So that's telling you you're mineral deficient as well as water deficient. This is why we make electrolyte drinks, for instance, which hydrate athletes in high sport activities because they're losing. And the minerals that they're losing are what I refer to as catalyst minerals. These are minerals that are not depleted in the action, the chemical action, but they initiate a chemical reaction. Then in the process, they get lost by the body, but you can reintroduce them. And there's a lot of, in the sports area, they research from the urine, they look at the minerals that are being lost, and then they reintroduce those minerals because they know that they're what's being used in, say, a 4,000 meter run or a hurdler, or whatever. But they're very specific because there's almost hormones and all sorts of other stuff. But the particular minerals are what keep you hydrated because it's all part of the chemical equation, what occurs to keep you the right temperatures and all this sort of thing while you're burning energy. So water is medium.
So what are the main minerals that we like? Obviously, everyone's going to have their own balance, and everyone's going to, at different points in time, depending on what you're doing, you could be losing different sets of minerals, right?
Changes from hour to hour, depending on your activity.
What are the most common ones, though?
Magnesium, selenium, you've probably heard all these before, zinc, gallium, calcium, but it's not, the calcium doesn't really come into it. The phosphoruses, some of the phosphoruses. Boron, which we have very little of. We can't store it as such in very many quantities, and it's no longer in our food chain. So the borons are an area that are being looked at carefully. That's to do with your bone structure and osteoporosis, etc.
And it's really funny because I have been out, because I've been doing the borax water, and I've been doing it really, really, like every single day for about 2 months. And I ran out of distilled water 2 weeks ago. And my local garage, who I buy all my distilled water from, because yes, in Malta you can only get distilled water from a garage. Because they don't drink the stuff, they put it in the radiator. So anyways, I bought the guy out. I literally did it in his entire stocks. I haven't had any distilled water for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I can feel the difference. I can feel the difference in my body, in my joints again, stiffening up, more stiffness, and I'm like, there goes my knee again. 2 weeks of not doing the borax water.
You'll also be getting a lot of the calcites and other minerals which will be starting to lodge in your joints and become blockages from the normal water. Every water is, in Europe, for instance, in France, everyone drinks bottled water all the time. If you go to a supermarket, it's like there's 3 huge aisles of all these different brands because everyone knows to change brands every 3 months because the minerals from that mineral spring are different. And if you go too long on one brand, you build up too many of those minerals. So you rotate.
Wow. That is so interesting.
Yeah. Just to be aware.
Yeah, but you know what? That's something I hadn't.
French really know about water.
Thought about that.
They really know their waters.
Yep, French and their bottled water. We've been making fun of them for that.
They also understand bread and wheat germ and lectins. They understand what they can and can't eat.
Yeah.
Very.
We'll get into the lectin thing at some point in this conversation too, for sure. So I have, for example, and because I look at skin, and it's my area of expertise. Right now, my skin is dehydrated. Does not matter how much water I put in my body. Doesn't matter whether it's distilled water, bottled water, spring water, mineral water. At the moment, so I know that I'm lacking in certain minerals. So other than, like for example, usually I'm drinking the borax water, which actually does, I have to admit, that actually does help with the dehydration, now that I think about it.
It softens it. It goes on the alkaline side.
Yes, it does. And I think it makes the water more usable to your body. What would you suggest as something people can make for themselves? Now, I used to make, literally, when I was in Thailand, when you were sweating buckets during the rainy season, when it was like 90% humidity, and we used to see tourists all the time passing out, all the time from dehydration and from the heat. And I would get a bottle of water, put like a half a teaspoon of salt in it, and the juice from half of a lemon in it, shake it up, and then say, now you have to drink that in the next 45 minutes. Like, just keep sipping, keep sipping, keep sipping on it. So lemon and salt are 2 of the quick, easiest go-tos. But what can you do? What would be better? What could you add to that? Dandelion root, from where you are. Yes, from where you are.
Most definitely from where you are, because, for instance, I make it up for people who are going through chemo, and they often end up with swollen legs, etc., which, contrary to popular belief, is the body's reaction to dehydration. It's scared. It's trying to retain fluid. That's why you retain the fluid, because it's dehydrated. So when you add the dandelion root, if you make a tea out of it, and then you add that to your bottle of water, say 1/3, or not even a third of it in tea, then add your flavoring of salt and your, I would add some glucose, so it becomes an electrolyte drink as well. Gives you a bit of energy, not too much, and a little bit of flavoring.
How about honey?
Sort.
Would honey?
Yeah, the honey's going to.
It burns fast.
Unless it's warm, it's not going to stay in solution. It's going to globulate and sit at the bottom. But you could do honey. You don't even need the sugar. It's up to you. But the dandelion, the root, the tap root, not the leaves or anything, just the tap root. That's the one. That's the part that will help you with hydration. The rest have other factors. And you get some. You clean it, put it in the freeze it, then pull it out, then bash it. It'll break up really well when it's frozen. It's much easier to break up that way. Then put it into a tea, make a tea out of it, strain it, and store it in a jar. That will help you with retaining fluids correctly. It'll balance things out. That's a simple one that you can do. The lemon is going to cause an acid reaction in your body to an alkaline hit, because your body overreacts to the acid and creates more alkaline balance, and that's why it alkalizes. That's why you're drinking an acid with an acid situation. The two acids together cause an acid reaction, and then the body reacts and overreacts, and it turns you pH the other way. That's why it works. It's a bit hard to explain, but that's what happens.
No, I think that's chemistry.
Really good for you. Yeah, yeah.
So how much, let's discuss, first of all, the symptoms of dehydration, because I don't think people fully comprehend what dehydration looks like. And to the point, I can remember as a child, my mom was always like, you need more water, you need more water. And she used to always say, you'd come home from school and say, I'm hungry. And she goes, you're not hungry, you're thirsty. Have a drink of water, wait 15 minutes, and then tell me if you're actually hungry. And 90% of the time you'd go in, you'd drink like a big ass glass of water, and within 10 minutes, you actually weren't hungry. You were actually thirsty. You were dehydrated.
Most hunger is mental. It's not actually physiological. Thirst is more to the point. You need water more than you need food.
Yeah.
But the simplest way for anyone is just poke your tongue out and look at it. If it's white in any way, you need water. The other way that's done with older people is you pinch the skin and lift it up.
Yep.
And if it goes down slowly, then your skin is not hydrated.
Yeah.
If it goes slowly. If it goes back normally, just falls down, it's fine.
Yeah.
That's what you do with old people, carefully, because their skin's like paper. But the tongue is the best simple response for everyone. Just look at your tongue. If it's white and furry, you need to drink rapidly.
Mine's white and furry. I definitely.
Other than when you've been smoking and drinking, and well, when you drink, you dehydrate. So,
well, and that's
alcohol.
Alcohol is one of the worst dehydrators.
So is caffeine, by the way.
Caffeine, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything good dehydrates you.
It's just not fair.
And from a lifestyle perspective, adrenal fatigue also causes dehydration, doesn't it? And it seems to me that that's the new normal, you know. I know hardly anybody who isn't stressed at the moment, who isn't on the verge of, if not in adrenal fatigue. So it's like that's another thing you need to look at. You know, if you are constantly dehydrating, you need to have a look at your, you know, how you're living your life.
And salts. Look at your salts. If you are not sure if you're dehydrated or not, lick your skin. I know it sounds a bit odd, but if your skin is salty, it means you are dehydrating because you're losing a lot of fluid, because the salt's what your body uses to express the fluid to cool you down. So the temperature where you are is adverse. You're losing salts. This is why in electrolyte drink you always have the salt. You're replenishing the salt so you can perspire and keep cool. Salt is a big one. You got to look at the salts you put in too, not table salt. You want salt.
Not table salt ever, 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 never.
No. A good salt, left out, will get wet.
Yep.
Because it's full of magnesium. Remember when you grew up, the salt thing, we used to put rice and things in the salt shaker because the salt used to block up. That's because it was real salt. It had magnesium. It was loaded with all these other minerals, which we're deficient in.
We have sea salt here that we get right off the salt pans here and goes up. And it's phenomenal. And it's wet. I mean, it's literally, we have all salt in our house. I've got 2 little TARDIS. I got a TARDIS salt shaker and a pepper shaker. We can't use them. We have a little pot on the table. It's like a little teeny pot full of salt, and you just take a pinch and put it on your food. So you make do. But it's good salt. It's raw, literally just scraped out of the salt pans, put into a bag, and that's it. and always freaking wet. So, other than lifestyle, are we seeing, because you and I have talked about hydrogen and shit like this, and the lack.
There's an atmospheric change that's occurring and causing a lot of this as well.
Okay, and that's what I wanted to ask, because when I was a kid, yeah, I drank water because my mother was insane about it, but no more than I do now. No more than I do now. And I certainly was not dehydrated as a child. Even in my 20s, in my 30s, I wasn't dehydrated. I know, I can look at my skin right now, and I literally have been like, my skin is so dehydrated. What in the atmosphere? Now, are we talking about this loss of hydrogen in the atmosphere? Or is it just literally changes within the atmosphere itself?
It could literally be the high-low pressure systems are becoming so often, like they're not following patterns anymore. They're just constantly. If you went and worked in Saudi Arabia for 6 months, there's a reason why the Bedouins, for instance, cover up totally, because the skin ages 10 years for every year if you're not careful. The dryness in the deserts just literally pulls it out of the women's skin. The men don't seem to care. They just turn leathery. That's a man thing. But the women, they cover up for a very good reason. I know nurses that have gone over there and spent time with the Bedouins, and within a week, they're fully covered up. They understand real quick what's going on. Because you can pour all the creams you like in the world, and they're just going nowhere.
Yep.
These desert-type climates are appearing in pockets across most of where you are, Europe, because of these changes. And I think it's all to do with the jet stream, for instance, is bleeding into the northern southern hemisphere.
That's
Things like that are
insane.
occurring. We have to adapt, basically. Doesn't mean we've all got to go fully better, but we have to be mindful of, look at the sun when you go out. It's white hot some days. It's not orange or yellow hot, it's white hot. And you can feel how hot it is. It's not even burning, it's just sucking the moisture out of you.
Yeah, it is. It really, really is. So, I mean, this is for me, I noticed last year my skin's reactions to the sun were definitely not drying. It was dehydrating. There was a real dehydration that was visible on my skin. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be putting into place more of a hydration thing, and I'll have to force my kids to drink some dandelion tea. They're not going to like that much, but oh well.
Disguise the taste. They wouldn't taste it. If you just have a certain amount in there, they wouldn't taste it. You can put cordial in, it's fine.
Yeah. I don't.
Put the green
Yeah.
stuff in, send them really right up there, you know.
Yeah, maybe if I put oranges in the water instead of lemons. I make my little guys drink when we've had really hot days and we've been out going for multiple days. I'll make them drink the Mummy's terrible salty lemonade. They don't like it that much, but maybe I'll switch it up and add some orange in there as well, just to sweeten it out a bit.
Call it dani, like Gatorade, Dani-Aid.
Dani-Aid.
Yeah, Dani-Aid.
Yeah, exactly. So when we talk about minerals, our food's a supply, and we've discussed it. You and I have discussed it privately. Ben has gone on about this quite a bit over the last year. Our food supply no longer carries the minerals that it used to have. The food itself is mineral deficient.
Nutritionally, a tomato today is only got 20% of what it had 40 years ago.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
Yeah.
So you've got to eat at least 3 times the amount of tomatoes to get the same benefit of one tomato 40 years ago. That's because we're sticking to the same breed of tomato, and it's never changed. It's just continually being mechanized and kept under gases, etc., ripened properly, and all the usual. But all of the food currently is nutritionally deficient. That's quite recent.
Philip, does this have to do with the medium it grows in, or does this have to do with the strains that are being grown? Like, would the heirloom strains produce, you know, a more neutrally effective or balanced or whatever, nutritionally balanced version?
Historically, we always used combinations. Farmers always combined all the time. They're always changing the strain to suit the climate and the condition of that year, etc. They had their resources, they talked to other farmers, and they did this. Since the introduction of the supermarket, the corporate move and the fast food chain, they wanted a tomato, for instance, that slices a certain way, holds its skin a certain way, and can be stored
for has the right color and right texture, and
So nothing is actually ever ripened anymore. It's made to color correctly, so you think it's ripe through gases. It's stored under certain gases. So you need the sugars to actually activate in a fruit for it to actually get flavor, etc. But also to actually eat away the sugars. The sugars get consumed, and then the other minerals become prominent. But if that chemical reaction isn't occurring in the ripening process, all the minerals that the plant has put around in the fruit to support the seed's growth and to break down the poisons around the seed, which are called lectins, they don't exist. And so you're eating them, you're eating the poison, which then basically suppress your entire system. This is what's happening because there's no diversity anymore. You look at your food chain, look at what you eat. There's maybe 5 things. That's it. You've got potatoes, tomatoes, carrots, cucumber. And, you know, you're starting to struggle after that. They're all variants of. I mean, lettuces, really the only lettuce that technically is good for you is the floppy, soft one, which no one wants. All the others, basically, even the bugs don't like eating too much. But we're eating all the wrong stuff. It's really weird. And grains, all the grains we have, we're eating seeds that are carrying lectins, which is the latest stuff, which your body shouldn't have, because that's the plant's way of defending itself against food eaters like us. So all your whole grain breads, actually, you shouldn't have. You should have a bread that's been yeast risen, because the yeast eats the sugar and it eats the lectins. So it's consuming the poison. So it's actually better for you. So a sourdough bread is actually really good for you, for instance. Or if you make your own.
I keep saying my oven sucks at the moment. So since we've moved into this house, I've stopped baking bread completely because my oven just really sucks. But I've been joking about that, saying I need to get some of the Amish friendship bread, which is a sourdough, and that you hand out, and then you just keep sharing the dough between people, so that you keep regrowing your yeasts and regrowing.
I think the everyone's saying yeast is the enemy because of candida and all this sort of thing. I think not all yeasts are all the same.
No.
I think it's actually more and more the glutens and those. Everyone knows about gluten and how it's bad for you and all that. Well, that's a lectin, for instance. And we always target the yeast when it actually may not be the yeast at all in this equation. It could be something else. They're starting to figure it out. And the old farmhouse loaf that your mother used to do and put out is actually really good for you. The royal families always had pure white bread. It was removed of all of the roughage and everything because it was healthier for them. It was a well-kept secret.
So you talk about the reverse.
Because silver disinfected the water. It killed the bacteria in the water. They always took the family silver with them, the upper classes, so they could have clean water. Water was terrible in England. Oh, shocking.
So you get told the complete opposite. And isn't it...
Yeah, well...
Right, because, I mean, I grew up in that whole thing, like, my mom would never let us eat, like, white bread. We had a brand in North America, and everyone will laugh when I say Wonder Bread, which was like that white.
Kellogg, you can blame for a lot of the brown breads and.
Don't even get me started on Kellogg.
Product.
That man is Antichrist. Yeah. Ugh. Scary, scary man. If you guys have not researched who Dr. Kellogg is, i.e. the guy who started the cereals and all the rest of it, go do your research. Scary fucking man. Scary. Well, that's it. So you grew up in the whole thing of like, no, you got to eat this whole grain. I can remember going and buying 12-grain breads, and I still eat like a multi-grain bread here because I love the seeds that they put in the bread, right? I love the sunflower seeds and that poppy seeds and all the rest of it. But you're talking about now we're finding out that what they told us for generations, really, it's the exact opposite. That white bread is actually.
You see what comes out.
What was that?
See if you look at the poop, you look all the multi-grains go through. They don't. They don't do anything because your body goes, "Oh my God, get rid of it! Get rid of it." Fiber is a different thing. Fiber, you got to be careful. The seeds are not fiber.
No.
That's an easy connection that is made marketing wise, and it's a trick as well. Fiber you need. That's different.
Yeah. Yeah, the stories they spin us, the lies that they feed us, quite literally. It's funny because when we were in Morocco, we just ate traditional Moroccan bread there. I never ate any store-bought. Well, I mean, occasionally you'd buy like a loaf of store-bought bread, and then you'd always hate it. But you go to the market every day, and 3 times a day, the bread makers would come out, and the bread would be hot and it's all done in the big stone ovens, and it's a flat bread. Like it's only about this high, and it's yeast raised, but they throw it like a patty, if you will. It's a big round flat bread, only about this. The best bread ever, and we all crave it. We all crave it here. We're all like, oh, I'm like, what we wouldn't give to have some good Moroccan bread because it's so good. And the Gazetan bread, traditional proper Gazetan bread, is that white, and it's very crusty. Like the outside is a really, really hard crusty, and then inside is
similar to a French baguette. I'll bet
harder. It's much thicker. Yeah. They do them in the big rounds, right? Like they're a big round one. But in the last 5 years, even, I said to my girlfriend who lives here, I said, they've started using, whatever flour they're using, they've changed the flour because the bread doesn't have the same texture anymore. The bread used to be chewy.
They're also be putting in extenders and all the rising agents.
And that's what I said. And now you can't even get. Yeah, exactly. So
because the rising agents don't eat the sugars. They don't eat the sugars. They don't eat the lectins. They don't consume the nasties. So it means you. These turn to pesticides in your system, basically.
Yeah, exactly. They just kill you. Basically, they just kill you.
Yeah. And don't forget the meat that you're eating is eating the same thing.
We've got the genetically modified corn.
Beef.
Yeah.
It's not grass-fed beef. It's grain-fed beef for the last 6 weeks or 7 days of its life. It's filled up with soy and corn and all these things that you don't want. Your milk, you want milk that's come from a cow that's eaten grass, not been given food, as in milk, things like that. So that's why your old Guernsey cow, the pretty face one, usually only eats grass. They do not like any other thing but grass as a cow. So that will give you your, your milk two class milk, which is the one you want, not the 1 class or something like that. I think it's the other way around. I have to check.
Yeah, Maury, you're funny. It sounds as if they don't want us to get out of here alive. Yeah.
Oh, we're just a dirty, great big lab rat colony in a mining pit. To be honest, I feel like we're in a mining pit and we're just a bunch of rats being played with. I swear.
I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm not going to say you're wrong.
Yeah, well,
so if we're lacking in minerals and our food now I'm big and I'm telling people we need to start growing our own food. We need to start collecting heirloom seeds, We need to start growing, even if it's just a planter pot on your balcony or in your windowsill, something. Beyond the actual growing, and we get into the whole soil and all the rest of it, and you have to have a show with a Ben on it to get into that stuff. What can we do to help bring the minerals back in? What are some of the suggestions you can make? What are the best things to start eating to try and bring in some of the minerals? So, for example, selenium, I was always taught Brazil nuts.
Yep.
For years.
Yep.
Eat Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are one of the highest sources of selenium. And then I just read an article recently saying, well, you know, the Brazil nuts are all being, you know, basically modified and all the rest of it. And guess what? They don't have any selenium in them anymore. And like, well, fuck, now what do I do? Because that was my thing. You have 3 Brazil nuts a day. Just 3. 3 Brazil nuts a day used to be like the old information, right, Ann? Old information that came from like 30 years ago. 3 Brazil nuts a day is all you need to have all the selenium you could possibly want in your system. No, it's not true. So where do we go to start replacing this instead of eating a ton of Brazil nuts?
All right. Firstly, eat at as close to your location. You don't want food to travel too far. Firstly.
Yeah.
If it's going to travel, you want it to be at your
latitude?
Your latitude.
Your level of the earth. You don't want it north or south of you. You want it on the same, wherever on the earth, but on the same. Because the food that's grown where you live, will move, the season will move around the earth if it's round or whatever it is, doesn't matter. I'm not going into that. But it means that seasonally it's ripe. And the other thing is to eat food that is ripe.
Ripe. Start
smelling your food. If it's not ripe, it's not ready to be eaten by an animal. And we are an animal. Don't eat unripe food. You know, I'm forever in a supermarket. I smell it. And people go, what are you doing? Rubbish. It's not right. It's not ready to eat. It's bad for me.
Yep. I sniff everything in this. When I go to the fruit market, my 2 fruit guys I go to, they laugh at me because everything I pick up I smell. Whether it's a lemon, whether it's an apple, whether it's a potato. I pick them up and I smell them. And if I can pick up a potato and it smells like earth and it smells moist, etc., then you know it's like fresh. It's just come. A strawberry season in Gozo right now. And first of all, you can tell the difference because they're much smaller. They're only like about the size of the end of your thumb. But I got out of the car and opened the door next to the fruit guy, and all the strawberries were out. And I was like, the smell hit you like a wall. It was like, poof. It was like, oh, the strawberries are in. And I went and bought like 3 buckets of strawberries because it's fresh. It's right now. Those are freshly picked. You can smell. They're ripe. And then I was like, a week later, Nick went to the store. He was like, I just grabbed these strawberries. And I took one look at them and I took a sniff. And I was like, those are from Italy. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, those ones came from Italy and they've been shipped and they were shipped unripe. They've got no smell.
Yeah. The other thing is when things are ripe, when they're in season, like your strawberries were 2 weeks ago or whatever, put them in the freezer. Store them. Get back to storing the food in its right, because that's at its best. There's nothing wrong with waiting till next season. Why do we have to have it now all the time? I don't want Mexican asparagus because it's not in season here. Firstly, I don't know what they do in Mexico to the asparagus. Secondly, it's been in an airplane for frigging whatever.
Or a ship or a something.
Changes in atmosphere change the whole nutritional value of the food when it's air freighted. You know, why? Who's telling us that we have to eat this all year round? I like to wait for things because then they're nice when they get here. They become a celebration rather than essential. Tomatoes, things like that, grow your own, mix them, whatever. But a lot of, also we overeat. I hate to tell you, we eat far more than we actually need. Far more. It's not like we're going out and hunting and gathering. We don't need the amount of foods we need. You need no more than 1,000 calories a day to function in this society currently at the moment. 1,000 calories, not 3,000, 1,000.
Not 8,000.
You don't need it. Also, a calorie is measured by burning food and how much energy it gives off. You don't burn food. You have chemical reactions that extract things from things. They don't burn. So it's actually not a very good measure of how a human body uses energy or extracts energy from food. The other thing to get your minerals is look to the stems and the stalks of the plant, not the flower head and the roots.
Yep.
Look to the area that grows the fastest. That will be the richest nutritionally, mineral-wise, of the plant. So the part that grows quickest will have all the minerals.
I have a freezer full of broccoli stalks and cauliflower stalks right now. And I'll be making...
What do we always throw away? The stalk.
And I never... See, I save them for soup, always. And they go into the soup pot, and then everyone complains about the smell of the house for, 6 hours. But you know what? It is nutritionally dense. I take the big broccoli. So you go to the farmer's market, they go, do you want me to cut that off for you? I'm like, nope. Because I'll take the broccoli stalk and grate it. Like, put it through a cheese grater and grate it, and then put it in, I make it with coleslaw. So I put it with cabbage and carrots and the broccoli stalk into the coleslaw. It really, really is tasty. But the stalks are, I was always taught that by an old farmer friend of ours who was Italian. Eat your stalks. Always eat your stalks.
Minerals and fiber. Two things you need, and they're all in the stalk. Yes, the flower's lovely, and that's got thiacin and flavonoids and all these other things which are good for you, but the minerals aren't at the top of the flower. They're different. It's different things. Or plant, whatever. And remember, the animals you eat have to eat the same things if you want to eat them.
Yep.
If you want a chicken that's been eating grubs and grass and things like that on plains. You don't want the organic chicken that they opened the door and said, look, it's organic, and then they close the door at night. That's organic, free range.
No. You want free range chicken, you got to go to Morocco, because that's seriously free range chickens. They just run through town.
There's nothing wrong with, instead of going to the supermarket for an outing, go to where the food's grown if you can. Go and find the farms. Go and talk to them. See. Yeah. Look around. We need to decentralize a little bit, because then if you know where it comes from, you'll get a sense of what's right and wrong. Your body's very good at telling you as well. Don't ignore what you're attracted to.
Well,
it's like there's a thing called a bush lettuce in Australia. It looks like a green, just a little stemmy thing. It grows wherever you see dandelions. It's actually a pain reliever. It's as equal to an opiate. If you actually pull it out, I have to get some pictures. You can look it up. It's a bush lettuce. And if you just chew it, you don't have any pain.
Huh. See,
it's right in front of you. These are the weeds. The weeds.
The weeds. Why
do we call them weeds? Weed is just a plant you don't like. It's not a weed. It's got a purpose.
I don't know if you guys can see this. We have a lovely Serbian lady who lives in Goa. She just did this book. I got it for Christmas. I told my children, one of you are buying this for me for Christmas. I don't care. And it's weeds for health. And she didn't even go into the natural growing herbs, flowers. She literally this book is nothing but weeds. And she goes through the medicinal value of them, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know what? This is the kind of thing that people can get their hands on, local books like this. If I can show it. So, Weeds for Health. This is just for Gozo. It's not even for Malta. This is just for my island.
That's probably 300 to 500 years worth of knowledge handed down in that book.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's lost in an instant if we don't keep it going. And it's good knowledge, because we're having to go backwards to go forwards in everything. We have to basically discard this last 50 years, 60 years, and go back and restart again. That's what's occurring. Even the pharmaceuticals, they're running out of drugs. They're running out of everything. we've got to go back to go forwards.
Well, it's interesting, and I sent you the link to the media is all over this. You know, the new body, the new organ that has just been discovered.
The organ of the body. Yeah.
Right? It's all new. It's not new. Of course, it's not new. They're just figuring it out. And Nick and I had this huge. We must have discussed it for about an hour and a half today. We have to look at medicine. What we call medicine, what in the West they call medicine, most of which is based on theory, etc., that is 50 years old at least. Yes, we have advancements in surgical things. Like there's some amazing new advancements that they can now do in surgery that's just astounding.
It's the time to live the broken parts, believe me.
Yeah.
The stuff they can do, putting you back together, is brilliant. You know, absolutely.
But the problem
Amazing.
is, if it's not carpentry, if it's not structural, so to speak,
Plumbing and draining and
right?
Yeah.
They're basing most medicines, I find, are based on a knowledge that was gained 50 and 100 years ago. So we have to look at this. We go like, now we have, in the last 20 years, we now have the endocannabinoid system. Oh my God, it's a pathway. It's all through the body. And it does all this amazing shit. Oh, wow. We have things like the neuromelanin. To this day, they're still not really understanding that it runs through the entire fucking body. We have this new organ that they've just discovered that is around under your skin. It is around every internal organ and lines every blood vessel. That was huge for me, because now you're talking about a new transmission, a new way of transmission. We're dealing with water. 1/5 of the body's water is stored within this organ. Now, everything that we've talked about water for how many years now? Holy shit. Like we sit here and we go, Ann and I talk about like programmed water, a la Dr. Emoto. We talk about things like hydrogen water. We talk about just the polluted water that we bathe in, that we drink, now we're talking about, now we have these drugs that are given out and a medicine based on really completely not understood.
Don't forget, 90% of them are synthesized drugs as well. They are man-made versions of the natural. They're not the original. They're too lazy to grow it and make it.
Exactly. It's even the opiates are man-made. They're not natural from the poppy anymore. You know, it's the synthetic cannabis, even aspirin came from willow. Well, guess what? Now it doesn't have any willow in it. Now it's just this man-made, synthesized mess. And the problem is they're still treating medicine the exact same way as 50 years ago. And how many times do they have to fall on their face? We look at statin drugs.
Transhumanism. They're trying to synthesize us to match their synthesized drugs. Sort of feels like it.
Never mind that they don't actually look at the notion of health. You know, we ought to be learning how to be healthy from the beginning. You know, from childhood onwards. You know, they start interfering with the immune response before you're born, and it goes downhill from there. So, you know, it's not just the medicines. They've also got to have the theory of health and disease. It's absent from modern medicine, completely absent. Yeah.
They tend to never look at balance as never aim for balance. They're always aiming for a response. For instance, all your vaccines, they have an immunal response component to get your immune system to suddenly do something. This is what turns around and bites you, because the immune system then responds and goes against everything, and that's what's happening. When you want to actually achieve hemostasis, which is balance, you don't You don't want your immune system to be boosted all the time. You want it to be happily chugging along, ready for any event.
Yeah.
But you don't want, like the athlete running a 100-meter dash in a marathon all the time. He just doesn't, going to destroy himself.
Yeah.
That's what.
It's like we have to say, look, hey, we wouldn't have survived this long if we didn't actually know how to live. You know, modern medicine is relatively new, and we've been here a bit longer than that, as far as we know. We have systems, we have an immune system, we have an apostat. You know, if the apostat isn't interfered with, you know what you need to eat, and you know how much you need to eat of it. Now, we've interfered with every single natural system that we have. And it's like we have to just put that all away and trust. What I come across more than anything else is this fear that people have that's been programmed into them that they can't actually survive without resource or without, you know, resorting to the medical system, to doctors, giving over their authority, not taking any responsibility for themselves. There's this terrible fear that we're so fragile that, you know, we'll just die if we don't do
know
this.
The greatest lie of all? The greatest lie of all?
What's that?
You don't need to eat.
That's it. That's absolutely it. Do you know, I mean, my work, most of my work I specialized in the treatment of children. And do you know what's happening now? I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of kids are just not eating very much. And parents, they don't need to.
Their body's repairing.
They're becoming breatharians naturally.
Yeah. We can be observers. We don't need to be consumers. We're in the Iron Age. The Iron Age iron is Fe, food eaters. That's what we are. We are the food eater race. But we don't need to be. We can be an observer. We can be H2Os. Two humans observing.
This is where we're getting into the...
Let's go into woo-woo-woo, because...
All you got to do is drink your water to keep hydrated, because you lose a certain amount all the time. And you've got to replace the minerals your body uses in its chemical processing. The body is designed to adapt to its environment and help you survive wherever you are. That's what it's good at. Your body can make adrenaline in less than a second. It takes a pharmaceutical company 2 weeks to make it. Tell me which one works better. Mind you, you're pretty exhausted after you've had an adrenaline rush, because even your body says, oh, Jesus, that was pretty heavy going, you know, but it got you out of danger instantly.
Yeah. So tell me.
It can draw all those resources.
Yeah.
And you know all you need after you've done that? You need a drink of water. You don't need food. You just need water, because that's what it depletes.
Unless you're British, in which case you need tea.
Yeah.
If you're British, you need tea.
Yeah. But, you know, if you took food out of the equation, tell me what in this world would be left. If no one had to eat, you look at the shows on all the starving people in Africa, if they realized that they didn't need to eat, they weren't going to starve to death.
And they had access to clean water.
You know, if I turn around and say to you, Dani, you've got to plant that tree to grow oranges, because if you don't eat those oranges, you're going to starve to death. You'll go and plant the tree.
Yeah.
Because you're afraid of starving to death, not because I told you to. What if you turn around and say, but I don't need the oranges because I'm not going to starve to death. I've got no power. Whoa. We're in dangerous zone here. If the world really realized that it wasn't going to starve to death, there isn't a food shortage at all. Whoa. All the trucks, 90% of the trucks on the road are all derived from consuming food.
Transporting food, yep.
Everything. Now, if we took that out of the equation, what would we do? We would actually enrich our lives and start to do things that we're capable of instead of being trapped in this whole game. I've got to be careful how far I go with this, because the system will attack you if you start to think this way, because you start to see that everything is based on this lie. And it goes back biblically to the moment we ate the apple. Before we ate the apple, we were observers. Then we became consumers. That is the fall of man. We can celebrate. I can have the best peach at the best time of year, and it's gorgeous. I can appreciate that. But I don't need to eat it. But I can
and when you do eat it, you eat it for the joy of eating it.
When you heal, when your body is healing, you fast. You don't. That is when it heals itself. That's when it gets its balance back. It doesn't want the pollutants of food or any of that stuff. It goes back to it needs water. It needs temperature control. That's it. The rest it does on its own. Happily.
So
you've got to put the minerals back in. I've done a lot of water research based on trying, like I freeze dry fruits and foods, I extract the water, and I'm going on the code that's in that water. And I can literally extract the water from a roast dinner, and I can put a roast dinner back together for you in a glass of water. Yeah. And I can give you all the code your body needs for the chemical reactions to produce everything that you can get from that roast dinner to help you survive in that cold environment. But I have to add in minerals as well, because the minerals are the catalysts for those chemical reactions. If you look up the word catalyst, it initiates a chemical reaction. It's what starts it. It doesn't get consumed by the process, but it starts it. So it can be recycled. So all we have to do is recycle the minerals we lose, keep our fluids up, and we don't need 90% of the food we eat. The other 10% is the celebration. Wow, you got a world changing with that. If you do that, that's scary to the world, to the people, the money men. That's a scary world.
It is.
If you want to prove it, you can look up. There's lots of medical history. The longest medical period of time was someone fasting and actually just doing mineral looping as such. It was 104 days. There are ways to bring people back from many very severe illnesses just by removing the food.
Yeah. One of the best things to do.
And will agree.
One of the very best things to do. I've met a couple of breatharians, young breatharians, and they said the only bother is that so much of Western society, of all society, in fact, is based around food. And if you're living in a group with loads of other people who don't eat very often, that's grand. But it's just, that was just their only comment about, coming out of a breatharian community. And they came to university here in Dublin and found that we all eat far too much all the time.
What got me into water research was there was a Western guy in India proving that you can live on air alone. Yep. And we went and studied him for 2 weeks while he was doing it. And I got to know him quite well, and we went through it, and he was just breathing. He wasn't eating. There's no bullshit here. This is real. But, and he agreed after he finished to prove the point, he was in a humid atmosphere, in a market square where there was a lot of cooking and food preparation going on. And he said he can't do it in a dry atmosphere. He needs the water in the air. And he said the added benefit was he could taste everything that was happening around him because he could taste it in the air. So it was giving, and then I thought, okay, so there's a code transfer from the water. This is Emoto stuff. And that's what got me into the code in water. But the stumbling block for me was the minerals. This is what we lose when we urinate. I needed to know what particular minerals a person needs. And everyone's, like when you pee, your minerals you're losing are in your pee, not my pee, yours, for you, for your environment. So I've got to analyze the minerals and reintroduce them, recycle them. Then the homeopathy situation, when you were born with your package of minerals that your mother gave you, you're slowly depleting them over a lifetime. But also what's happening is what's left is becoming purer and purer, stronger and stronger, and more effective as you get older. There's,
Phillip, sorry, maybe I missed something there, but if you are excreting minerals via your urine, what about
catalytic minerals?
What about
Catalytic
reintroducing them by taking your own urine?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, when people get lost at sea, and they
Phillip
say,
has
"Oh,
not said it yet. I can
weeks."
see it's niggling
Yeah.
around the edges because every time Phillip and I have this thing, and he goes, "Just drink your OP," and I'm like, "No, I won't."
I call it getting on the piss, but anyway. But when you hear about people who get lost at sea and one guy survives and all the others dehydrated and died, the one that survives is the one that drank his own pee.
Yep.
Because he's reintroducing the minerals. Yes, he will continually dehydrate. You can't consume them. Your own pee won't give you enough water. Yeah. But if you can add more water to it, you're getting the minerals, you're recycling your minerals, and you're drinking your water. Then you can survive for at least 104 days documented that I know of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure there's people gone.
I've seen the documents of someone doing that for 104 days. And then the silly thing was they introduced food to him and he got sick again. Sure. It was really weird. He got all the problems back again. So, you know, it's sort of...
Mari has asked a question about, you know, the grumbly tummy feeling that people develop when they haven't eaten. Now, I know from doing fasts, my father was very into fasting, and we used to do grape cures and things like that. And I haven't done it for a while because I'm so lazy these days. But
can I answer that for you very quickly? If you drink your own pee, the minerals will satisfy the grumbly, humbly feeling.
There you go,
you
Maury.
won't have hunger. You won't. If you want to try it, don't drink the first pee of the day. It's a bit strong from the night. But get a glass, half fill it with a bit of pee have a glass of water when you first wake up. Then you'll find your kidneys are giving a much clearer fluid after about an hour the next time. Half fill your glass with pee and then top it up with distilled water and drink it. Do that the next 3 times you urinate. I guarantee you won't be hungry until 7 o'clock that night. Yeah. You'll have no hunger.
Yeah, Maury's having a bit of a problem with that.
Remove the hunger.
Maury's on Dani's team going, I ain't drinking my own pee. Okay, but
listen,
you water it down. It's all right.
Okay, so Phil, you talked about programming with your urine.
If I have a cup of coffee, my next pee tastes smoky from the roasting of the coffee beans. That's what comes through. It's a smoky flavor. Go figure. So, you know, that's the hydrocarbons being passed out of the system because it doesn't want the hydrocarbons from the burning process. Because hydrocarbons are harmful to you. But in that are the minerals that cause the catalytic effect to extract them from your system. Now, if you're sick, what happens is you're reintroducing some of the sickness. What do you think your body does? It creates antibodies against that sickness that you're reintroducing. So then you get well.
Simple.
It's simple science. Your body is, you know.
Body knows. The body knows.
Yeah. But for most people, if you've got a cold or flu just starting, a couple of drops under the tongue, straight to the immune system receptors, that's all you need. You don't need to drink. It's okay. Yeah. But if you want to prove a point of hunger and survival, imagine if there's a tidal wave comes through New York or whatever, and all the food supply is gone for the next 6 to 7 weeks. What if I told you you've got nothing to worry about? All you need is a bath of water.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about going and nicking all the black TVs and all that, you know, and going and looting. Because, you know, and people come, give me all your food. You say, fine, take it. I don't care. They'll starve to death because they're convinced they need it. They don't know. And they will starve themselves to death. That's how good the human is at convincing themselves.
Yeah.
It's ironic. When you prove this to yourself, if you've got the courage to actually try it. Up until Good Friday, I had not eaten food since the 13th of March to prove this to myself. and it's spooky.
How did you feel,
I
Phillip?
spent $5.25 in 2 weeks on my food bill. $5.25, and of that, $2 of it was for soap. Rest was apples. I mean, what? I'm $150 a week food person just on groceries. Like, whoa.
Yeah. How did you feel? How did you feel in yourself?
Good, light, very light. The moment I ate food, which I did on Good Friday, I suddenly felt really dense and heavy. I felt heavy. I felt a heaviness. It's actually quite, and I didn't lose weight, by the way. I shrunk. I lost some visceral fat, but my weighing, I lost less than a kilo in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, normally I would expect, and that tells me that dieting, there's a trick in there. There's something a bit nasty about dieting. It's like you've got to starve yourself and suffer a little bit. So to do that, you reduce the amount of food you're used to. So you get this hunger in 2 hours' time, and then you fight the hunger, and then I'll give you a little bit of weight loss to satisfy your, you've been a good boy and suffered. There's something really evil about dieting. I haven't put my finger on it, but it's a trick. It's a mental trick going on. I'll reshape your body, but only if you suffer a. What? What's going on with that?
How very Catholic of you.
Yeah. It's sort of, what? I mean, you start to think this way when you suddenly realize that you can exist on just water and recycling your minerals. You can become an observer. That's all you are. You're an observer.
Okay, so John just made a really good point. Just talking about like basically peeing in the garden. Therefore, you pee into the soil, you remineralize the soil that your plants are going to grow. Therefore, they will also then have those minerals.
Sydney University has been doing a study on all the students' urine for the last 5 years for exactly that purpose. They are looking at remineralizing our entire crops, etc. It's all for the agricultural department. Very big study. And unfortunately, the pharmaceutical companies have realized that they can actually, they can get all their drugs back and resell them. They're trying to negotiate rights at the moment.
Recycling your piss so that the pharmaceutical company
medicines in your piss resell to you.
How do you think about that, folks?
How's that one?
Your pee so they can take your drugs out and then give it back to you again.
Yeah. Because you believe that it works, remember? It's the same trick.
Okay, so we talk about programmed water. Then technically, I'm going to put this out here for everyone because I'm considering this one. This is the only one I would consider because urine therapy But we could then program our water with our pee, which would take literally a drop of pee. In your big glass of water, 1 drop. Program your water with all that mineral, etc. Take that back.
Yep.
Okay, guys?
You always know
is that a little more acceptable to all of you?
Yeah. But also, you know that what you're reintroducing is the minerals that you have been consuming.
Exactly.
That's the point. You're recycling. Your urine is actually blood plasma. It's without certain parts of it. It is actually from your bloodstream because it's been filtered out of your bloodstream by your kidneys. It's the water from your blood. It's not waste product. It's different. But you've got to look at the physiology of it. But I think your homeopathy side of things, you only need a couple of drops.
Oh, yeah.
Why not?
I have made an X potency, which is a dilution of 1 in 10 from my own urine. And there's a particular protocol that somebody was using and reckoned it was very good. So you make it like once a week. You make so that you keep on changing. You don't keep with the same drop because obviously you're changing as you go through this kind of detox. So you make a 1x potency on a Monday, you bang the bottle every day, so the potency rises slightly, and then the following Monday you start with a fresh drop, and so you take a drop from that bottle every single day, change it once a week as you change.
Well, yeah, you're going to do different activities, different things you're going to use. I'm trying to identify these catalytic minerals. That's what I'm trying to do at the moment in a lab. But it changes every day. It changes to whatever your activity is, and there's a lot of them. You know, and it's sort of, there's only so much time I'm allowed on a mass spectrometer, and it costs money, etc. And I've got to have a reason. And I'm really just a thorn in the side because I make stuff for PhD students. But I'm allowed to use the lab, but they don't like. I'm not allowed to.
He gets in trouble a lot. That's how we just
And I work the wee hours of the night where I can get away with things like that. Literally, no pun intended. But you know, it's sort of, there's so many areas of this that can make us far more or less consuming in the world, which will allow our world to recover and support us in any way we wish. You know, it's how we get there.
Interesting.
The other thing too, if you put fresh urine on your skin will absorb it as readily as you can drink it.
Yep.
And it will do especially your thyroid. If you've got a thyroid problem, every time you pee a little bit on your neck, and your thyroid problem will start to change, okay?
Sorry about that. We had someone unmuted.
A very good issue with thyroid problems.
And glandular problems as well.
Deficiency that's at the base of that. If you can reintroduce and recycle topically, the skin, and that part of the skin you were talking about, that organ will do its job.
Well, there's so many, again, aspects, and I come back to the skin, because the skin is this organ that people just, who were talking again, Nick and I today, just about it, saying science, mainstream, at least on the surface, acts as if they have no comprehension of what the skin is, what it does, how it works, and how vital it is, as it not just something that holds everything together as a suit. You know, it's not just this outer covering that keeps you from spilling over onto the floor. We can treat topically. We know that certain drugs can be applied topically and be within the bloodstream within 26 to 27 seconds. DMSO. Yeah, DMSO. You put a drop of DMSO on the back of your hand, on your wrist, and you can taste it within seconds. That is how fast your body processes through your skin. So if we take this further and we look at things, for example, looking at the urine therapy, things of adding, I mean, it's funny, someone brought up the whole thing about peeing in the shower. And yet, you know what? Peeing in the shower is so healthy for you. Healthy for your feet. Your feet are one of your major contact points. When you look at shiatsu, when you look at the energy points, we look at the fact of you can apply things to your feet that then go throughout your entire body to treating anything. You can treat migraines to applying stuff to the soles of your feet. So it comes back to this whole thing where we have a society where medicine doesn't comprehend, or pharmaceutical, if they do comprehend, they certainly aren't going to tell us about it.
It's about commercial. They have to have a way to make money. If you, for instance, if you're iodine deficient, and you know you are, they try to sell you something because they want you to take something. All you have to do is put a drop on your wrist.
Yep.
And you can tell how deficient you are. If the color disappears within 2 to 3 minutes, you need more. And you just keep putting it on until the stain stays there for an hour. Then you know you're back up, you're full, the tank's full.
Yeah.
It's all the person has to do. The skin will take it up faster than anything else, but they can't make money out of that.
No, well, I mean, in all of these, like homeopathics, they can't, tissue salts, they can't make money out of that. And again, we can get, we have to get Mark O'Sullivan back on to talk about the tissue salts, because of course you're talking about minerals as well. Here's another.
Minerals is that's the big one that's all the question marks are in for me.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a lot more to discuss on that mineral subject for sure. But through our skin, you can take all these things in. And then we got to comprehend now commercialized fuckery, sunscreens all over your body, which block vitamin D absorption and are so toxic. They contain it's not just one ingredient, they contain multiple ingredients that are neurogenic, damage the brain, carcinogenic, cause cancer, and epigenetic, like literally can actually interfere with your own DNA in your gene cells. So when we start to fully comprehend all aspects of health and the homeostasis aspect of it, when you start to fully comprehend that you can be responsible for yourself, to feed yourself, or nutritionally satisfy what your body needs, we take all their power away. When you realize, honestly, and I say this to everyone, I mean, obviously I sell skincare. It's what I do. It's my passion. But I would prefer to everyone go out, go buy a bucket of good quality coconut oil, or get yourself your hands on a really good bottle of olive oil. Start rubbing that on your skin, and understand that even crappy quality olive oil is going to be better for you than putting any commercial moisturizer on your skin, sunscreen, anything like that. People really need to comprehend this. The shit you put on your skin has a direct effect. And now this new bit about, like I say, this new organ they've just discovered, which is right under your skin. This is major stuff that people, because science doesn't get it. They don't get it. They don't comprehend this shit because they've been put through a diploma mill. I'm sorry. They've been put through a diploma mill, and you're going to study chemistry, but you're only going to study this one kind of chemistry, and you're not going to learn anything about nutrition, about minerals, about how the body works properly, et cetera, et cetera. All you're going to learn is what the pharmaceutical companies have told your university to teach you. Which is why, I hate to say it, people like us in this group here, I think, know more about human health than any of these scientists. Because we research. We continuously research, and we are able to, on a broad spectrum, pull information out continuously and fit the puzzle pieces together because we haven't been biased towards it.
Good example of the hemp oil, if you put it on your skin, will stay in your skin in the dermis for up to 72 hours.
Yep.
That's a good protection. The other thing that we've been noticing research-wise is after about 24 hours, you get a smell of rotten egg, the eggy smell. And that's because it's reacting with what's in our atmosphere, and it's an iron oxide that's being produced, and it's your rotten egg smell. Now that's a protective barrier.
Exactly.
It's become air film over your skin, and it's protecting you. The smell of the egg is actually protecting your skin from being damaged by the chemicals that are trying to get into your skin.
Yep.
So it's actually, the hemp oil's really good as not so much a sunblock, but a chemical block, because we've got children that are coming down with lung cancer from particulates in the air. Yep. They don't smoke. It's other particulates in the air. All these things are affecting us. So anything that's going to protect us and stay in the skin for a long period of time. Most oils, pharmaceutical or whatever, other oils, petrochemical oils, just the skin gets rid of them very quickly. Doesn't want them around. But the hemp for instance, or the olives, but hemp specifically seems to last a very long. It sucks in quickly, and you need very little, just a little eyedropper. That's it.
And what most people don't realize is most of these oils have a natural SPF factor.
Yeah.
Argan oil naturally has an SPF of an 8 to a 10, and it depends every year. It fluctuates because it depends on the seed, about the nuts that year and how they were grown and what the weather was around them and the effects. Coconut oil has an SPF of about a 6 to an 8. Olive oil has a slightly lower SPF. Carrot seed oil has an SPF of almost 20. So for me, like when I take my kids out to the beach, if I know we're going to be on the beach for longer than an hour or two, I cover them all. I completely cover them all in argan oil. Cover them in argan oil. And now I have a redhead. My eldest daughter's a redhead. And we went out, we had really beautiful weather on Friday. We went to the beach. Her shoulders got a little bit pink, but she was out there for an hour and a half in the sun. It was a good 24 degrees outside. It was beautiful and sunny and hot, like the sun was hot. You can protect yourself, and then you treat yourself afterwards. Even you can do these things without having to fall into the trap of, I have to have sunscreen. If you need sunscreen, put on a shirt, put on a hat. There's your best sunscreen.
Well, also, you've got to ask the question, when sunscreens first came out, there were SPS 5, 10, 15. Now they're 30 and 50.
75 SPFs for babies that are SPF 90? Are you kidding me?
Are we finding that the natural salts in the skin are dispersing your little chemical and it's not staying on the skin long enough? So you need to put something thicker? They're almost going to a pure zinc again. This is the only way to get it to stay on the skin.
This is just it. But then now we've got massive, again, this has just come up again recently, a vitamin D deficiency. Mass. And there was some scientists going, well, we don't really understand why everyone's so vitamin D deficient. We put it in your milk. Really? Could it be the fact that you are told everyone for the last 20 years, especially in Australia, you have to be covered. Don't go out in the sun. It's going to kill you. You must have a thick slather of sunscreen on that you put on every hour. As soon as you get out of the water, you got to put on more. You're vitamin D deficient because your skin makes vitamin D when it is in contact with the sun.
Yeah. The other nasty about the sunscreens is the effect that it's having on the natural ecology of the beach areas.
It's horrific.
And they're quiet. They don't like talking about it, but it's bleaching everything, basically.
It is, and I mean, I had a friend of mine in Australia when we were in Australia send me a photo. They were at some big beach in Sydney. They have, like, you know how outside the beach at most normal places, you have like a shower? So like you get out of the water when you're leaving the beach, you can kind of shower off a little bit so you don't track the sand and everything in. They have a shower that sprays sunscreen on you. I was just like, and people are like going in and going swimming and then going back and, oh yeah, free sunscreen. Let's get some more of that.
Wash it off and then come back, put some more on. They'll wash it off, put some more on. What does it do to the beach?
It destroys the beach. Bleached beaches. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the lectins. Because, of course, Cliff High brought it up in one of his big things earlier this month. And he got death threats. How dare you say that some vegetables are not good for you and that they're actually killing you? The vegans came out literally out of the woodwork and were like, eat. So I want to talk about this because the lectins, it's really interesting. And since that piece, I've now noticed 4 or 5 little articles starting to come out. Woman dies from eating pumpkin soup that just happened to be from like some bizarre pumpkin that she wasn't used to. Of course, it came from somewhere not local. And they didn't call it lectins. They call it wasn't curcumin, but it was something very similar sounding to that. And they're like, oh, well, we've been breeding this chemical out of the pumpkins and the squashes because it's a chemical the plant naturally produces to get to defend themselves so that the animals won't eat them and the bugs won't eat them. But we've been breeding that chemical out of them. It just so happened that these two women who had gotten, they didn't die, I think they got very, very sick. They ate heirloom seed pumpkin that was some rare thing from somewhere way far away, and their body just went from all of the, and I'm assuming that this, whatever this chemical, I can't remember the name of it, it's going to drive me nuts, that, yeah, the plant paradox shopping list is, I will post it with this show. It's an awesome little quick one. The plant paradox.
Eat the foods that you can eat first, because you'll get depressed when you read the ones you can't. You'll go, what? But read the first bit and you'll feel good, because you say, well, at least I can eat that and that and that. But then you look at what you are eating and you go, oh.
Wow.
And okay, even if he's not right, it's, you know.
So what are the lectins? Explain. Just give us a brief rundown, because you're running experiments with the lectins right now.
Well, one of the unis that I go to at the moment, they're doing it on the rice grains. They're doing the brown rices, and it's all in the husk, and the brown bit that we think is healthy is where all the lectin is. And that's how the plant protects its seed when it gets dispersed. And of course, what do we eat thinking it's all good for us is the chemical that actually is protecting the plant, which is actually a poison, because it's designed to be a poison against animals eating the seed. But basically, the most commonly known lectin is gluten. That is a lectin. That's the one that we all know about, gluten, and being a main problem. And gluten behaves like insulin in your system. When it gets into your system, it behaves like that and causes all sorts of problems. And this is why people are having these issues. But there are many, many lectins. For instance, an apple seed has arsenic around it. Arsenic's a lectin, if you think about it. We don't eat the apple seed because, you know, it's bad for us. It's only a very minute amount, but the plant puts it there just enough to make you feel a bit sick if you eat too many of my apples, so that you leave some for my apples to germinate into trees. It doesn't try to kill all of everyone, but it tries to put you off, make you a bit sick. The problem is we're a bit sick already, and things like wheat germ, which you've probably read about, wheat germ, etc.
Oh, it's so healthy for you.
Yes, well, that's a lectin. It's a pure lectin. To give you an idea of what wheat germ does for you, it again behaves like insulin. It blocks the sugar from getting into your muscle cells. It interferes with your digestion of proteins. This is what wheat germ does, right?
Wow.
It cross-reacts with other proteins, creating antibodies, which induce your immune response. So it gets your immune system boosting unnecessarily, which then the immune system starts to attack you.
Yeah, because it has nothing else to attack.
Interferes with the replication of DNA. The DNA doesn't function properly, which they're finding. There are lots of cancer associations, but we won't go into that too far. Enables the entry of influenza into your body, which is something that lectins are showing up. Okay. Why the influenza strains are getting in.
Is wheatgrass a form of wheat germ? Because wheatgrass, everyone just drinking this wheatgrass, and I'm like...
No, the wheat germ comes from the wheat berry itself, from the wheat grass, from the green.
Again, a grass is different. You see, a grass, for instance, we should be eating beef that's been eating grass, because the cow is designed to digest the lectins in the grass, and the grass also isn't trying to kill the cow so much. But if the cow eats too much, why does a cow have 3 stomachs or 2 stomachs? Because of the lectins. It's got to process them. But if you add a grain like soy and millet and things like that to it, that stuffs it up. It's going to carry, the lectins are going to be carried into the cells of the beef, and then you are going to get these insulin-resistant cells in the beef. You must eat grass-fed beef if you're going to eat beef. you know, we can eat the meats, but we've got to be careful what the meat's eating. Otherwise, we get the same problem because it's an animal just like we are.
Yeah.
It's sort of, now the doctor that's gone into it, he's reversed a lot of medical issues just by dietary change. I mean, I won't say much more. You can look it up yourself. I'm not going to try and endorse his book, but it's a good read, but it's still $38 worth, and he's making money out of it. However, lectin research is becoming more and more acute at the moment, shall we say.
Right.
The other thing they say, all right, what about rice and all the Asian countries that eat rice? They eat white rice. It's been removed. The husk has been removed. And the other thing
is... what are we always told? The health food people, oh, no, white rice is so bad for you. You have to eat the brown rice.
It's like, I really like the fact that white bread is really good for you. I love white bread. It's soft and but it's got to be yeast. It's got to have been risen with yeast, not with other chemicals. Otherwise, the sugar and the lectins haven't been consumed.
Yeah.
That's the way you've got to work it. The French eating their baguettes and all that do well because it's a yeast-lifted bread.
Yeah.
But
and it's not full of crap. Like we joke, Maltese bread, you buy it one day. If you haven't eaten it by the end of that day, the next morning, it's a rock. It's like, you might the next morning get away with making toast out of it. But Maltese bread is like, it's stale. And the same thing with the Moroccan bread. Moroccan bread, you have it for that day. That's why they sell it 3 times a day. Like it's sold at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's sold at like midday. And then like 6, 7 o'clock at night, they're out there with the bread. You get it at 6, 7 o'clock at night. Whatever you don't eat that night, the next morning, it's okay. But by the next evening, you might as well throw it in the garbage. Or they feed it to the animals. They feed it to the chickens, etc. Because it has no preservative in it. It is just a yeast-raised flour, yeast, just enough sugar in it to make a catalyst, and a bit of salt. And that is it.
The other thing is your dairy. If you're going to eat cheeses and things like that, you need to be sure that the dairy that it's coming from, meaning the animal, is eating what it should be eating. So cow milk, most of the time, is now feedlocked.
Yeah.
It's not eating grass.
Yeah.
So this is where you've got your type 1 and type 2 different milks. That's where that's stemming from if you do some research. But generally, if you have a sheep-based cheese or a goat-based cheese, they will still be eating their natural food source, so they're okay. Buffalo milk, which they make mozzarella. Mozzarella is really good, but not the little one, the big piece of mozzarella. The little one, that's been played with already. The other thing is they introduce salt.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the little one is lovely and tasty, but there's a catch in that. Okay. The one is still left the way it is. So.
Can I jump in here, Philip, before I forget? A couple of people have been asking about hot flashes. Do you know what's going on with them?
This new organ that Dani's been talking about. That's I would basically put that down to that organ, because in my understanding of that part of the skin, it is all to do with temperature. So something's going on there. So hydration again, but not to, depending on the age of the person and what's going on, they're losing certain hormones through the night and they need to reintroduce them.
Well, and we joke about this, like the whole hot flash thing. I mean, we have joked about this for years. But when you have 19-year-olds and 79-year-olds experiencing the same, it's you have to say that, okay, well, there's hormonal hot flashes, but we're going to put them over here for this moment. Yeah. Because now we're looking at a broad spectrum symptom.
Temperature problem. There's salts. There'll be a deficiency of salts because the body can't regulate its temperature correctly. Or there's an infection. That's the other way. The body uses temperature to fight something. So you've got to look at what's going on in that regard. It could be a form of fevering because something's attacking the body, or their electrolytes are out of whack and they can't get their balance of temperature correct. The body can't get the temperature right. So I make an electrolyte drink and have it sitting in the fridge. You get a litre of water. For every litre of water, you would put 1 tablespoon of glucose, because then the body doesn't need any process to get the sugar. 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and any flavouring you like, but not enough to flavour it, just to discolour it.
Yeah.
So it looks like the old Gatorade. Remember Gatorade used to look pale?
Wishy-washy yellow, just barely, almost pea-colored actually.
Just enough so it was sort of salty, but it was sweet. That's what you want. Have it in the fridge. Anytime someone's feeling a bit woozy or hyperglycemic, knock it down. They'll be fine in less than 5 minutes. Be back in no time.
Interesting.
With salt. And use a pink salt or a black salt, which you get from the Indian shops. That's a pink salt, but it's from a different location. There's a different complex of minerals. Or a good sea salt, good flaky sea salt will give you lots. Yeah. The reason they're good is
wet, soaked sea salt.
Yeah. Salt that's been sitting on an old seabed is actually an old plant bed that's decomposed. So you're getting all the plant nutrients back again. That's what you get in the salt. Whereas demineralized and rock salts often aren't very good. And by the way, Himalayan pink salt isn't Himalayan, it's Indian pink salt.
Yeah, for the most part. But it sounds better to say Himalayan.
But it's still a very good salt. I use it myself, nothing wrong with it. Yep. But it's not quite
if you
what
get
the market...
the real stuff, right? I mean, that's the joke, right? Is there's a shitload of fake... Yeah. Why do you fake salt? I mean, seriously, it's fucking salt. It's not like it's gold. But they'll fake anything these days.
The greatest fake thing that I can't figure out, the Chinese make plastic rice.
I've heard about this, and I'm just like...
With little plastic rice beads, and they put it in their rice. I mean, I can't... Rice is not that expensive to grow. Is plastic that cheap?
No.
It just... All of us can't figure it out. Why would you even do it? We don't understand. We just can't figure out the logic in it. It's sort of like they got this byproduct of plastic that they're trying to get rid of, maybe.
Yep. God knows.
It's bizarre. It's been showing up in certain food products, and Sydney Uni's on it already, and they've been told to get it off there. You know, it's happening. Yep. Sydney Uni actually does a lot of very good work. They were the ones that caught the oil, the fish oil problems with the supplements in Australia. They caught them out.
Oh, really?
Actually notified the companies that they needed to put fish oil in their fish oil supplements, not other oils. Oops.
Yeah.
And they did. They've corrected it. But the point was, why did they do it in the first place? I mean, it's like...
Listen, everything gets cut, and they do... It drives me nuts, and this is why I say I am, when it comes to certain aspects, I am the pessimist of the pessimistic. Because if I didn't see that product grown, processed, etc., if I don't know, especially when you come, like especially oils for me, if I don't know where that oil's from, exactly what its history and what the company is, I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I don't trust a vast majority of coconut oil. I certainly don't trust any olive oil that you would buy off any grocery store. It's all crap. And I know it's been cut with piles and piles of stuff. It comes back to, again, the locality, though. Like, we have to go local, and you have to kind of find people who are doing things locally. Here, like I said, I'm lucky. Everyone presses olive oil here. You can rent an olive oil press during the olive season. Well, any time of the year, actually. And everyone just picks their olives and they press it and they put it in old wine bottles, and you can buy it by like the jugs, and you know. But there are other oils that people can get wherever you are. There's going to be something that gets pressed into an oil. Go investigate. Go try and find out. Better to use an oil that is local, that you can follow the history of, and you know that it's not contaminated. It's not been genetically modified or covered in pesticides.
Or blended.
or blended with something cheap like soya oil or corn oil, which is the most common one.
And the nasty one is palm oil.
Oh,
I mean, it amazes me that Nutella is such a popular product. Because
it's like pure palm oil.
And palm oil, you do some research, it ain't good for the human body.
No.
It has to be blended with another oil, otherwise it causes awful problems in your digestive system.
Yep. Yep.
You know. The other thing too, if you're getting oils, even when you know where it's coming from, look to how they filter it, how they clean it. They often won't change and clean their filters often enough. And this reduces shelf life all the time.
Yep.
That's why when I get oils for research, I actually go and visit, and if I'm not happy with it, I will then refilter it myself with just coffee paper. You know, you just run it through the coffee paper. It's surprising what you can pick up.
But here's the thing. So for me, I'm exactly the same. But for me, when I can buy, so this is a bottle. I just realized I still have this sitting here. This is a bottle of our olive oil.
Yeah.
Locally made. You see all the stuff in it? Now I'm going to turn it upside down. You'll see it all start to fall. Did you see that? That's how unfiltered this is. Now, but nutritionally, this stuff,
soluble fiber.
This is amazing. This has been unfiltered. This has been filtered once. It's done through a simple filter process. But the oil is so unrefined that it contains all the nutritional goodness that you can get from an olive oil. And then I do what you say. If I'm using like this I buy because it goes into my products, into my balms. I take it and I pour it before just before I use it. I put it through a coffee filter and I filter off any bit of silt and residue that's there because I don't want that in the products. You filter that off, and then you keep going. But you leave this in here at the moment because that's actually healthy for the product. Like, it's good. This is raw. That's the way it should be. But like you said, commercially, first of all, no one wants to see that shit in the bottom of a bottle. If you see that stuff, people have like oh, it's terrible, it's terrible. But it is one of the signs that you're actually getting an oil.
What they usually do is they heat the oil up and they actually change the structure, which of course then alters the oil, and it usually takes away all the nutritional value.
Exactly.
Once something reaches 100 degrees Fahrenheit, it's losing nutrition from there on. It's like a downward spiral. That's why heat is your enemy, funnily enough, nutritionally wise.
I know, and yet soup is so good, but it's so good for you. But again, I go through the back and forth because I love making soup, and I make bone broth all the time. And it's like...
Yeah, but what are you after, minerals or nutrition?
Nutrition most of the time.
But if you're getting the minerals, then it's okay. Remember, what are you getting? Out of that, the bones, you're getting a load of minerals, the minerals that you need for bone structure.
Yeah, which is why I swear by bone broth.
Doing other things to give you other nutrition, but from a mineral point of view, it's actually very, very good, a stock.
Yeah,
very good. And also it's oily, so you're getting a lubricant. It's not just a solvent. Water is a solvent, oil's a lubricant. The body needs both.
Yeah. Yeah, the body does need both. And that's one of the things that's hard with propaganda, these fake health propaganda. Oh, your cholesterol's too high. You need to not have those avocados.
Yeah, the brain's made of cholesterol. So if your cholesterol's too high, doesn't that mean you've got a bigger brain?
No, you got to define the difference between, you're eating too much fucking bacon in McDonald's and, your avocado on toast.
It's a strange old...
Yeah, Dawn has been asking about using pee with Roscoe the dog. So now she
as long as it's Roscoe the dog's pee and not yours,
yeah, exactly. Give Roscoe.
Well, I expect you to collect it, chase Roscoe.
We're going to get a wiener dog, right? He's a very, very old wiener dog.
Collecting the pee. That's going to be the next thing. Dawn is going to have a video.
Yeah, I'm like, Maury's gonna have to film me trying to get his pee. It'll be a good
And
laugh.
we expect you to rub his aged urine into his soft parts, okay?
I'm sorry. I just.
Gee.
I want that video. I want that video. That's all I have to say.
I got
Just,
him.
Don, James, and Ross go around the house with a bowl. Come on, just pee. Just pee.
He actually a little bit of hemp oil in his food would do him a world of good. Strangely enough, not a lot, just a few drops.
So when you say hemp,
C60 is really good for animals. Very, very good.
He means
One of my
hemp, Don, not
students-
cannabis.
Yeah.
okay.
No, not cannabis. Hemp. He might go to sleep, but that's about it. But one of my PhD students is doing the C60, and he's a veterinary science major. A lot of very good. They like carbon. They're an animal as well. They need carbon as well. So
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm giving him C60 right now.
Yeah, she's giving him C60 right now.
yeah,
He's going to be
It's
the
a slow,
happiest,
gradual
healthiest
thing.
20-year-old dog around.
Yeah, it's just slow and gradual, but it works really well for them.
And I
It's
do it,
very
I
good
do it topically,
anti-inflammatory.
too. Yeah. Yeah.
Very good.
I'm really liking it.
Yeah, but it's not. It's like most things. It's not like the pharmaceutical, the quick reaction. It's a long, slow process. But it's about being healthy, not being quick. That's the difference.
I have to say that to my patients too that are trying to get well from the different diseases because they, you know, it took them a while to get sick, so it takes a little while to get well, and they're all looking for that quick fix.
Well, we've been conditioned to want the quick fix because we get a medicine that suddenly the pain goes away in 10 minutes. But the problem doesn't go away, just the pain. That's the trick.
You're exactly right, sir. Exactly right.
Yeah. And they're happy to give you a statin, and you say, well, you know, you'll be right. You can go and do whatever. I say, well, no, I want the healthy one. Oh, well, go for a walk and change your diet. Then you don't.
Then you don't need the statin.
Yeah.
You talk about a drug that's pure
Then
poison.
you have all these issues at the 10-year point. It's not very nice. So
No.
it's quite scary, actually. It's getting to the point where you're afraid to go to see doctors and hospitals because there's things I'm hearing, people go in and they don't come out. It's not good.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear it all the time. And unfortunately, we're in a problem so I'm in a part of a really, really huge, it's actually the biggest, I believe it's the biggest anti-vaccine group on Facebook. I think they've got like over 170,000 people in this group globally. And I have days where I just, because they come through on my wall and I see the people posting, and it's just like, mostly mothers, mostly women, who have just started to find out about vaccines. So they're at the very beginning of that journey. And they don't know how to do anything. They don't know how to do anything for health. They are completely, I'm sorry to say, but illiterate when it comes to taking responsibility for their health and the health of their babies, their children. These people have been so heavily programmed by the medical society that when you have a cold, you take this. When you have a flu, you take this. You have this injection. You take this pill for pain. You take this pill for infections. They have no clue, and it blows my mind. And we've gotten to a point where we really, really have to start massively educating ourselves and our communities, because when you start to wake up to the fraud and outright fraud and the fact of they're just incompetent, medicine is incompetent now, but we've got to have something to turn to, and it means that we have to start educating ourselves, and we have to start educating how we look at these things, which is why we have these shows, why we discuss all this stuff. If you can get to the roots of the issues, i.e. things like hydration, minerals, nutrition, then we're starting to build from the ground up. right? We're building a whole health that goes from the ground up.
Yeah, John was asking about C60, etc. in carbon. If you get a candle and you put your hand over it, you get a certain amount of carbon on the inside of your hand. There is probably 1,000 particles of C60 on your hand, not millions. That's the difference.
Yeah.
The process of making C60 is done in a plasma reactor where they have a source of carbon. It's in a vacuum. They hit it with a charge, and the vacuum is there's a plasma in the air, and it arcs, and it literally vaporizes it on the outside, on the inside of the reactor. You're doing the same thing in a very primitive way by putting your hand above a flame. It's a similar thing, but you don't get the concentrations. That's the difference. No. And it takes them 3 days to do it in a plasma reactor, by the way. It's not a quick process.
No.
And then they have to spend another 3 to 4 days separating out the other 20 different things, nanoparticles that come with it, of which many are used for different things. The reason C60 works so well is because it's a nice circle. It's not an oval shape like C70, which is a really good lubricant, but not that good with the human physiology. The more circular, the better it is for a human or a mammal species.
Yeah.
But theoretically, if you lick your thumb, it's like having shungite every day. You're basically licking your hand every day. You're having the same effect as shungite, which has particles of C60 as well.
Yeah.
So you will get it. And nanoparticles are nanoparticles.
It's about concentration. That's what we're looking at, different stuff. It's like even charcoal.
You're doing a rapid detox, if you think of it that, a rapid version. But if you did it generally, I mean, my grandfather our family were in blacksmiths in England, and he used to clean his teeth with soot, but a very particular soot from the forge, and salt. And he died with a full mouth of teeth, and he didn't have a filling in his mouth, and he could bite through wire. They were get him to smile in the forge, and you could spot him because he was the black face with the white teeth. We don't do that. We shouldn't use toothpaste. The number of dentists I know that don't use toothpaste and don't let their families use toothpaste, it's amazing. They usually use salt. They just salt, and it's all about gum health. They don't go up and down like that. They go, it's all about how you massage the gum. They don't tell you.
No, because it would put them out of business.
Mm.
There's another good question from Dawn. A person that gets mono in their lifetime ends up having their blood cells change shape. Why does this happen, and would C60 correct this?
C60 is purely, think of it as a detoxing agent. It literally takes out oxidation. That's the best way to look at it. For things to go back to normal, you've got to get the body into perfect balance. It certainly wouldn't do any harm, but the actual effect of returning back to a normal situation has to happen from hemostasis, which is balance. It's not the C60 that would do it, but the C60 may help
facilitate the reset.
Facilitate
help the environment to get to a place where it will. I mean, C60 is not a miracle cure, unfortunately. It's not a curing thing. It removes toxins from behind the retina very quickly, for instance. Most people with macular degeneration have a very noticeable effect. Some people actually go blind for a day, and it scares the crap out of them, but then they get perfect vision. It's literally dragging too much out too quickly. And it's, in the research side, that's a bit scary for people. So, but ultimately, it's doing a really good job.
So activated charcoal. That's one that we've. I mean, people have talked about charcoal toothpaste, etc.
Great for your teeth, great for that. But how is it activated, who's activating it, etc., etc. You know,
where did the
devil's-
charcoal come from? It's got to come from somewhere. They burned something to make it into charcoal. What was burned?
Did
What's
they use an accelerant? You're going to get hydrocarbons being introduced. You've got lots of other problems coming in. It's like, I always tell people, if you want vitamin C, make your own. And I give you, it's dead easy to do. Don't be afraid to do it. They say, I'll go out and buy ascorbic acid. That's a synthesized product and it's not vitamin C.
Nope.
It's nothing to do with it. But you can make your own. It's not hard. I'll put a link into a document that I list all the things you need, and you can make it yourself. It's dead easy. Hang on a sec.
That's good.
Yep, that's a really good one because vitamin C is one of those ones.
D-limonene is another thing you can make from orange. It's the orange color in the peel.
Yep, and I have these already. I've already downloaded these ones, so I'll make sure that I put this into the archive with this.
I'd rather people know how to do it themselves, because it's like everything. Like a professor I know, he says, you can eat anything you like so long as you make it. Because when you make it, you don't add anything extra than what you need. If you want chocolate, get the beans, make your own chocolate. You want ice cream, make your own ice cream. You're not going to add all the preservatives and all the sugars and all the other things that you don't want. You're only going to add cream and flavoring, and that's it.
And another thing, Philip, if you make it yourself, you will never overeat, because it's not like going to the supermarket and filling your trolley with this and that. You know, if you go into your kitchen and start making it, you'll only have time to eat a bit.
You've never seen me make satay sauce.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, except for me and my granola bars.
I end up with so much of the damn stuff. I've only got a recipe for 2 gallons, and it's everyone wants it. But they always know when I've made it, because everyone gets a jar.
Wow. Yeah.
But yes, I know what you're saying.
Oh, God. Too funny. Well, you know what? It all comes back to, and it seems like every show we get to this point where we get to the end of the show and we go, it all comes back to responsibility, being responsible for ourselves, being responsible for looking after our families and those around us, and educating ourselves. It's just this, we're in this educating process now.
Yeah. The other thing is, don't hang on to the knowledge. Pass it on.
No. Share.
Don't be afraid to let other people do it. I mean, I sell some of this to pay for my own research, but I don't mind if someone knows how to do it, because I can't be there. You can make it yourself. It's okay.
Well, you know what?
Go.
Nick, my husband, is heavily into alternative energy and always inventing and working on things. And when he's so many times said this, the greatest crime against humanity are these people who have invented incredible devices and taken that invention or that secret to the grave with them, because they couldn't share it, because they needed to, either whether it was they wanted to monetize it or they wanted to protect it, or there's all the excuses across the board. We need to be sharing these things. When we have a way of doing something, we need to be sharing these things. We need to educate other people so that they can continue educating. I mean, this goes into what we were talking about this morning, right? The kind of the dream that I have of being able to create a space where people can come for a week and learn stuff. Whether it's learning how to make a face cream, a body lotion, whether it's learning how to cook a loaf of bread from a proper sourdough yeast, whether it's learning how to make a bone broth, whether it's learning how to grow a garden that's permaculture, whether it's learning any of these things, that they can come for a week, learn this, and then go home and teach it to others. That they can, and you spread the knowledge out, because the more people who are knowledgeable, that's how we change society, as far as I'm concerned. Because when people get to learn how to do things for themselves, there's a really intense sense of pride, of accomplishment. The first time someone makes their own pot of soup from scratch and they eat it, and it's like, I made this myself, and it empowers people. And when we can empower people in our daily life, and I like to think that this Unfuckers group that we're really about empowering people. If we can empower people every day, one person with even just one little thing, we've made a major step forward in society as a whole. Definitely, definitely. Well, darlings, we are pretty much done for the night. Phillip, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I love having you here to have these conversations.
Next time I'll shut up a bit. Sorry.
No, really, really interesting, Phillip. Thank you very much. I've learned loads. I'm going out with the spade or the fork tomorrow to dig up those dandelions.
Get those dandelions, yeah.
What?
I'd love to give you a glass of roast dinner.
Oh.
I got into that literally for space stuff.
Yeah,
so people can travel in space. But it's fascinating, and my stumbling block was the minerals, and you know, they already recycle it, they just throw it away. They're throwing away the thing that they needed to add to it, and it all makes sense now. So there is no longer a limitation for travel in that regard. As long as it's not past 108 days, technically at the moment. But there is someone who's going a longer space than that at the moment. So.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Oh, no doubt. Well, thank you, Ann, for being here with us tonight and for asking some of those questions, because, yeah, we got lots to learn. We have lots to think about. This conversation is going to have to – I'll be up until 2 o'clock in the morning again tonight doing that. Think things through. We've got to work on this stuff. So those of you guys who know, Unfuckers Unite is been launched. We did a soft launch early on this week. This coming week that we're going into will be the full launch for unfuckersunite.com. From now on, all the shows, if you want to participate in the Zoom room, the Zoom links will only be going out in the Unfuckers membership. So it is a full membership site. We are doing this to keep the site locked down, because we are not going to go through what we went through in December when we got so badly hacked and everything was destroyed. So the site is locked down tight. The membership is either $5 a month or $50 for the year, payable on PayPal, or if you have difficulties with the whole PayPal things, you should be able to pay by credit card. Send me a message and I can send you an invoice from PayPal, which then you can pay with a credit card. It works very easily. Also, no Unfuckers get left behind. If you can't afford it, if you can't, whatever reason that you don't have the credit card, you don't have the PayPal, etc., contact me. No Unfucker gets left behind. We're trying to get a lot of stuff taken care of, and we're trying to expand the site. We're going to start building the library now, at least as in the simplest form at the moment. We're going to start getting all this stuff put together, because we need to share this knowledge. We need to share this knowledge that we are amassing. Okay? So come visit us at unfuckersunite.com. I've been prettyifying the whole site. I've been working my ass off all week. And that's it. We'll be back on Wednesday night for the Unfuck It discussion. Same bat time, same bat channel. Next Sunday, what we're going to do. I don't know what we're going to discuss next Sunday. You never know. We'll have to wait and see. But that's it for us. And I will see you guys all later. Bye, guys.